In this video, we're going to extend what we learned about in the previous video on Django-Filter, and we're going to learn how to filter with multiple values for a field, for example the genre field. We might want to filter and get all crime and sci-fi books. At the moment we can only do one at a time. How do we do it with multiple values? We're going to see that in this video, and we're also very quickly going to see how to integrate Django-Filter with HTMX. These were both requests in the previous video that I did on this topic, so this is going to be a short video demonstrating how to do this. So let's get started. Now we're going to start by looking at the genre field here. We want to filter and allow users to select multiple values. Now if we go back to the code in our models.py file, you can see that the choices are defined here using this text choices subclass called genre choices. This defines 4 choices for that field: the crime, non-fiction, other and sci-fi, and they are attached to the field here, this genre field, with the choices keyword argument. Now the choice field that you see on the front end here, this comes from the form that is attached to the Django-Filter filter set that we defined in the last video. So this filter set, it contains fields that we want to be able to filter by in our requests, and one of those fields is the genre field. But at the moment we can't filter by multiple values. But what we can do is we can override the defaults for this field as we've done above with this price field. We've set that to a range filter. So rather than just rendering a field for the price itself, instead what we're doing is we're actually using 2 fields on the front end, as you can see here. It's the prices between a minimum and a maximum. That's what the range filter does. We want to override the default filter for our genre field, and we want to allow users to select multiple values. How do we do that? Now I'm going to go to the Django-Filter documentation here. There is a filter field called the multiple choice filter, and this allows the user to select multiple choices, and then the filter will form the OR of these choices. So for example, if we go back to the form, let's say we select non-fiction and crime books. It's then going to perform an OR statement when it's doing the filtering, and that will give you back any book that has crime or non-fiction. So what we're going to do is go back to our filters.py file, and within this FilterSet class we're going to manually specify the genre field here, and it's going to be an instance of the Django-Filters.multiple choice filter. And because we're manually specifying that, we need to pass the list of choices to that filter. In this case, it's going to be the book models genre choices class, and then we refer to the .choices attribute there. Once we've done that, we can then remove the genre from the fields below in the meta class. And if we save that and go back to the page, if we refresh this page, we're going to expect to see the widget change here. So let's see if it does, and you can see that it has changed. Now we have a multiple choice field, and we can actually select multiple of these, for example crime and non-fiction. If we submit that request, we get back the following table that is reduced down to the crime and non-fiction books. So as it said in the documentation, it performs an OR query to find books that have a genre that's any one of these 2 that have been selected. And if we look at the URL that's formed when we submit this form, you can see at the top here we have 2 instances of the genre key, one set to C for crime and one set to N for non-fiction. So Django-Filter is smart enough on the back end to be able to parse that URL, get the genres out of the URL, and then do the associated query set filtering for us. We don't need to write any other code. We simply define, in this case, the filter field that we want to use, in this case a multiple choice filter, and the logic is handled for us. And again, this is another benefit of extracting your filtering code to a filter set. So when you're dealing with choice fields in particular, it's very easy to use Django-Filter in order to get multiple values for a single field. Now in addition to this, we can actually change the widget that's rendered. This is the default widget for multiple choice fields in Django, and if we inspect this element with the browser's developer tools, you can see that this is a select field and it has the multiple attribute. Now we can use Django Forms to change the default widget that is used here. So from Django at the top here, I'm going to import the Forms module, and when we define the genre here, I'm going to pass a widget to that instead of just using the default. So we can pass a second keyword argument to this multiple choice filter, and we're going to set that equal to the widget that we want to use. In this case, it's going to be the CheckboxSelectMultiple widget. So once we've made that change, we can save the file and refresh the front end, and now we get this multiple checkbox system instead. We've changed the widget that's being used, but the filtering should still work. So for example, if we now look for the non-fiction or sci-fi books, when we submit that request, we get back the correct results in the table. So all this filtering, it's working. We can change the widget. Django-Filter can handle all of these scenarios for us, so it's quite flexible in the case of filtering down choice fields with multiple values. So that covers that topic. The only other thing we want to do in this video is quickly demonstrate how easy it is to use this with HTMX. We're going to keep this short and simple in this video, but what we're going to do is go to HTMX's documentation, and from this CDN we'll grab the script tag, and I'll link this page below the video. What we're going to do is paste that into our base.html, and we can paste that within the head tag at the top there. So that brings HTMX into the project. What we can now do is go to our index.html file, and this contains the content that's actually rendered here on the page. At the top we have the form, and that's rendered using the Django-Filter set, and you can see that form element here at the top. We're going to change the attributes that are used in that form element so that it uses HTMX to send the request to the backend. So right now we have a method of get on this form, and the action is sending the request to the index URL in our application. Now to get this working with HTMX, I'm going to remove these. We'll keep the URL around, and we're going to replace this with hxGet. And this means that when the form is submitted, HTMX will handle sending the get request to that URL, the index URL. Now because we've set this up without HTMX, the response is going to be the whole page. To keep things simple, I'm just going to set the hx target equal to the body tag. So because HTMX is returning the entire page anyway, we'll just replace that by setting the target to the body. So let's now save this, and hopefully this is all we're going to need to do to make this work. If we go back to our page and refresh, let's now try getting the sci-fi and other books. When we submit that request, we get back the correct results in the table, but this is now being handled by HTMX. Now to verify this, we're going to load up the browser's developer tools, and we're going to go to the network tab here. Let's try adjusting the genre once again. This time we're going to go for crime and sci-fi books. You can see below here that the type of the request is an XHR request. It's an AJAX request initiated by HTMX. Let's get more details on that just now. You can see it's been submitted to localhost, and if we scroll down to the request headers down below here, we've got HX request. This header is set to true, and that indicates that this is an HTMX request. So let's close the developer tools. This is now working with HTMX, and we can do more complex filtering. For example, we might want books by George Orwell. We can do that filter, and it's still going to work with the other filters as well. So if we remove these and we get back all the books by George Orwell, we get both of them back. And this is now working with HTMX simply because we're sending the get request using HTMX, and the response is being swapped into the DOM and replacing the body. So the entire page is replacing the body. Now what you might want to do, of course, is you might want to only return the table. So you might create a partial with the table and return that instead, or you might use Django render block and wrap the table within a block. It's very easy to do that if you only want to return a piece of the DOM that you want to swap in. In our case, we're not going to go down that route in this video. We're just going to stop here, and we're demonstrating that HTMX is very easy to integrate Django-Filter with HTMX when you're working with forms. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.